get to something now. So I got an email from my brother, a good brother, Zahir Bey, on July 27th. And it was a forwarded message from a Moor by the name of Zahir Ali, subject Taj Tariq Bey, 7/29/2014. Islam family. We have been investigating the brother Chief Nanya Shabbu L, and please understand this brother is working against the movement. We also found out that the brother was staying in Atlanta, Georgia, and some things went down there, and he was carried and took to Canada by the feds with no return. It is imperative that we study the counterintelligence program carried out by the FBI so that we can see how effective they were to breaking up movements that were going for liberation. COINTELPRO now would be Homeland Security. In short, this brother Nanya Shabbu L is definitely working with them because he's sure not working with us. So you should know how to deal and see people coming when they come at you with BS. Right? So this is the same guy who, if you go on Canaan Land Moors, you will see a YouTube that we did with him 2 years ago, right? 2 years ago. And it's called Canaan Land Moors Nanya Shabbu El, Atasika Nation, or whatever, right? What we're going to call them now, we're going to call them Oxycontin Nation, right? Because they're doing something over there that people shouldn't be done with. So Nanya Shabbu El and the Oxycontin Nation. And we did a rebuttal, right, to his I didn't want to say class because it was really just a tool. He used us as a tool basically to slander people we consider master teacher and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So we dealt with it. You know, there was some other little stuff that went on. You know what I mean? Because you know, when we realize people are agents, dirty, whatever, you know, we distance ourselves from those people, right? So once we distance ourselves from them, we're not expecting them to come up again. You know what I mean? Because you know we sever ties. We don't do the don't burn bridges. You know what I mean? If bridges have to burn, we're gonna burn the bridge because certain people we don't want crossing over and coming back over here, right? So we cut that tie. So then I get this email with this brother coming back out now, and they're gonna go through the same stuff, but now they got recruits now. So they sent out this 10-page whatever, I think it's on Scribd or whatever, affidavit to Great Seal National Moorish Affairs. Below a template of affidavits to draft Taj Tariq Bey, MSTA Inc., MNRS, Great Seal, Moorish Holy Temple of Science, etc. A template and actual affidavit to give you an idea of how to do an affidavit. If you have any questions, let me know. Beneath the template, an actual affidavit sent to Great Seal via registered mail so you know how an affidavit is done and how it is structured, right? So these weirdos, now remember, this is public record, right? So these weirdos have affidavit to Great Seal, right? Now this is when we're studious people, right? You recognize faults, right? And when you recognize faults, something has to come to mind when you recognize a fault. Did that person make a mistake, or is that deliberate? If it's a mistake, then you could probably tell them something and it's correctable. If it's deliberate, they're sticking to their position and they're not moving in that error, right? So This affidavit to a Great Seal National Moorish Affairs that, names all the different Moorish groups, organizations, whatever like that, you know what I mean, that have been out here doing something with this information as far as letting people know about it instead of harboring it in a little corner. It goes on to talk about, things from 2 years ago, right? May 17th, 2012. Taj Bey busted on Facebook for whatever or something like that. When, we let them know, back then, we let them know that that wasn't Taj that's running no Facebook, because Taj is not on no goddamn Facebook. We already told those people that. But they didn't stick with that, right? We didn't stone them to death then, right? So it popped back up again, right? Coming with the same crap from 2012, right? And when we say dirty Moors, recognize, like we said in the beginning, this is somebody who the feds picked up in Atlanta, Georgia, and brought him to Canada, deported him, right? How we know this information? Before we go to that, let's just analyze this affidavit quick fast, you know what I mean? Because we want to make sure that we're clear as to, these people's competence, right? Because one thing you realize about dirty Moors is that they don't study, and they're the most incompetent people. And as soon as you call them on their incompetence, then they're going to tell you about, calling muftis to do stuff to you and all that stuff, right? So we're going to call out some incompetence right now, right? So this affidavit of facts was from an Anthony Silver Bey, right? To a Great Seal National Association of Moorish Affairs. Okay? And then it goes, affidavit of facts, and, fact 1, fact 2, fact 3, fact 5, fact 17, fact 21, 22, 23, 24, fact 27, conclusion. Right? Great Seal / MST of A. So, we're talking about it because we're MST of A, and, we already dealt with these punks already. And they're coming back up again. All right. Great Seal MST of A, when mentioning Constitution for the United States of America, are committing treason by accepting Federal Reserve notes, a private note from a private bank which does not have an oath to support or defend the Constitution of the United States, thus are committing treason. See Article 1, Section 10, Constitution for the United States of America, Trading with the Enemy Act, Title 50A, USC. Relief sought. All proceeds, products, fixtures, which may have been used to create a security that may be traded on the stock market, Fidelity Investments, returned to me. This is not limited to principal and interest in the temple's organizations, which may have a 501c3 to be distributed to all members, and dissolution of the organization, temple, etc. Should the temple organization not have adequate finances, then the organization is to be dissolved. Notice, you have 10 days from the receipt of this letter to respond. Kavit. Lack of written response, no written response, acquiescence will be accepted as tacit consent and agreement to all facts stated in this affidavit. Now, first issue is this individual by the name of Anthony Silver Bey. Now, if he's Anthony Silver Bey, right, according to, him knowing himself, how come he's signing this document, right, with no Bey on there? That's the second interesting thing is, how come you're Bey, but then you're using a driver's license as identification when you go to notary? Now, according to my knowledge, you put this statement on the bottom of your affidavit at the end. Using a notary on this document does not constitute any adhesion, nor does it alter my indigenous standing in any matter. The purpose for a notary is verification and identification purposes only, and not for entrance into any foreign jurisdiction as an advantage of settlers, Confederates, Europeans, Caucasians, Amorites, Canaanites, corporations, and fictitious entities to implement corporate laws, fictitious codes, and commercials contracts over my natural, indigenous, autochthonous flesh and melanite body. The only reason that you put that on the bottom of your affidavit is if you are going to be using a notary in your proper person, right? Now, if you're showing an ID as a driver's license, but then making a statement about your indigenous standing in any matter, but you're showing a driver's license as ID, and then remember, even if you got your L Bay or whatever like that on your driver's license, you're still a fraud because that name's in all capital letters on that license. So don't get caught up and try to go there, right? Driver's license. This is what, and people are gonna read this thing and they're not even gonna even pick up on that. They're just gonna read this thing and they're gonna go, wow, I can't believe Taj, the MSTA and Great Seal and what did that. Wow, oh my gosh, how come they're not replying to this? Why is it that they are just letting this stay here? Because there's so much fraud going on with these clowns, right? There's so much fraud going on with these clowns that it is important that we show people so people know. Stop playing around with the sovereign Indian crap. Stop playing around with the tribal BS. There's no salvation there. It is bait to get you under the jurisdiction of the democracy. It is bait. Right? July 23rd, 2014. Sovereign citizen must face charges even if he is Crown Prince Emperor L. Bey, Big Bey, Bagby. Right? All these people, they want to say that they're Moors and they got ID and they got nationality card and they got flag and whatever, but they don't want to recognize Noble Drew Ali, who brought that concept to them, or to their leader that they follow, who they were inspired by. The hell out of here. A federal judge has ordered a New Jersey quote-unquote sovereign citizen to stand trial on a variety of criminal charges regardless of whether he is, as he claims to be, the Crown Prince L. Bey, Big Bey, Bagby. William McRae of Ewing asked the federal court to remove him from the criminal case filed in Bucks County, where he has been charged with using fake diplomatic tags, drunken driving, driving without a license, and failure to pay child support. So you already know that it's all about child support. They're not trying to get no driving without license, drunk driving, tags, and all that stuff. They're not even going there, right? Just like with Abkarebe, she didn't charge her with no squatting and stuff like that, right? They charged her with aggravated assault of a so-called highwayman. That's why she got 6 years. She didn't get no 6 years or 10 years or whatever because she, quote-unquote, stole a house. You go check the articles, all of them, and you'll see ain't nobody charged her with stealing no house or squatting or nothing like that. So then that means that what she did was right? That means that she has the authority to actually do that then, right? If they didn't charge her with that, right? If they give me a ticket for driving without a license, and because I showed them a nationality card, and then I go to court and they throw out the ticket, doesn't that mean that it's okay to drive with a nationality card or a right to travel card or whatever, and I don't need a license? All right, same situation. It's okay to go out there and claim a house. If you do it properly, yeah. Why not? It's your land, and the house is on your land. So why can't you claim it? Because remember, they didn't charge her with stealing no house. Go back and check, right? And these are all the things that you're dirty Moors. See, that's why you don't do that stuff. See, because then they're gonna arrest you, and then they're gonna whatever. They didn't charge her with stealing no house. What are you guys talking about? All these dirty Moors out here pointing fingers at her and making it seem like she got in trouble because she stole some house. That's fraud. It's clearly in the record that she didn't steal anything. Clearly, that it's aggravated assault that they're going for, right? Or that they went for, right? Watch for these clowns, because believe me, these people that we say, when we say dirty Moors, we're talking about agents that are working for U.S. democracy. We're not talking about some guys that just don't like Moors or whatever. We're talking about people who are contracted. We're talking about people who are contracted. Remember, go do your research on the Federal Bureau of Investigation, on the Moorish Science Temple of America. It's online. So you can see what things they were doing, what type of information they received from Moors that were in the temple at the time to be infiltrators. Their purpose of being in the temple was to infiltrate, not to know thyself or none of that. Right? That's not what they were in there for. Okay? So this joker, Nanya Shabbu L, let's put some information out there just so everybody's clear, right? Just so everybody's clear. This is information that's out there. This is not, you know, find something, make up something, put something up, right? Who is Nanya Shabbu L, aka Sean Henry? That's SeanHenry. So that's you know his name or whatever, right? Sean Henry. Sean Henry was born in Edmonton and moved to Toronto at the age of 17 years. From there, Sean became involved in a cult-like organization and lived illegally in the United States for 10 years until returning home to Canada as a brainwashed drone. This is information that's out there. Sean was a member of this cult for 10 years until the cult leader was jailed in 2004 for child molestation. You already know who that is. The cult members were removed from their compound and Sean was left to fend for himself with no education or work history. Sean is still under the influence of the cult and proclaims that he has godlike powers. As such, he feels he is not human as well as exempt from the laws of our country. Since being deported to Canada by U.S. immigration officials, Sean has been a nuisance to family and former friends and a financial burden to his own mother. Sean feels he is exempt from paying child support and has never paid a cent to support his teenage daughter. Instead of working, Sean spends his days emailing, faxing, and sending packages filled with meaningless gibberish to people who couldn't care less about his delusional existence. Sean feels that he has an audience in the Prime Minister, Queen, Pope, CSIS, International Criminal Court, and others. Sean has been declared a vexatious litigant by the Court of Queen's Bench of Alberta for the relentless harassment of his uncle, and he has also faced a criminal trial for mischief. A peace bond, which was supposed to prevent Sean from posting libelous and slanderous material on the web, has had no effect on his behavior. Sean was diagnosed by a forensic psychiatrist as being seriously mentally ill, yet our healthcare and legal system released Sean on a promise to take medication. My guess is that he's not taking that medication. What do you think? Right? So that's just somebody out there, right, who knows this joker. Sean Henry, aka Nanya Shabbu L. But not only him, right? Because remember, right, there's court documents to prove what we're talking about is legit. Okay? There's court documents to prove. Okay? And we're not worried about no, what jurisdiction of court and all that stuff, because they don't care what jurisdiction of court. How do we know that they don't care about jurisdiction of court? Because when Nanya Shabbu got kidnapped a little while ago, who you think his wife or whatever called to come help him get out? It's Kudjo that they call to get information, to get writs, to help him to get out, right? And let's just update some information now, right? When we were dealing with this individual and we realized that he's an agent, right? We didn't understand the vastness of his agentness, right? We thought that it was Nuapians that kicked him out because of him doing stuff. We didn't know that it was the feds that actually kicked him out. So when this thing comes up now, right, with him slandering the MSTA and Taj and all this stuff, 2 years later from stuff that we already dealt with him, that he's bringing up stuff from 2 years ago, right, it brought me to that phone call that I got, right, and it woke me up to the fact that they've been playing the whole time. The whole purpose of their position was to try to destabilize the Moorish movement, the legitimate Moorish movement in Canaan land, because the first time this ever been out here. I began to realize the importance of her making that call to me, right? Because between the lecture that we did with Nanya Shabbu and her calling me, we had no conversation. There was literally beef between Nanya Shabbu at Oxycontin Nation, right, and Canaan Land Moors because of the scattering that this individual caused amongst our ranks by presenting this fraud of information, this color of truth, right? And then the other half of it made us realize how much people weren't studying. Because if you're going to listen to this clown tell you about some constitution suspended and we're a fraud, and you're going to listen to him, right? And then we told y'all, well, whatever, that guy's an agent, but they don't want to listen to that. They want to go call him, side with him. They want to meet with him, do Skype classes with him and all this type of stuff, right? Continuing with the same rhetoric that he got, that, we're a fraud, and, so when you saw all that stuff going on Facebook a few months ago, right, that was undertone with Nanya Shabbu. All these Moors that came out, all of a sudden they hate Canaan Land Moors, even though we helped them get their children back and from children's services and all those type of stuff, right? Even though they come crying their eyes out, groveling about their children got taken, and we assisted them, they're going to turn their back because they're listening to some dirty Moor, right? Using their brainwashed Jedi mind tricks, MK Ultra, whatever, because remember, that's an agent. So when I got that call from his wife, right, asking for help, flags were already up, because why y'all calling, of all the people y'all know, y'all calling Kudjo about how to get him out or whatever? We had this conversation, and it's like going back now, right? I can see how it was a fishing for information for those people, right? So when we say, for example, Brother Amari got kidnapped, and when they came and they had the file, and they put the file down on the table, right? And they're going through the file and they're showing him stuff, right? That there's no way that you guys are studying us for that long. There's no way that you're sitting there studying Canaan Land Moors, that you got all that stuff. You got to have somebody that's giving you info, that's giving you intel, right? And guaranteed all that intel came from all those sellouts from here that sided with that clown, right? Gave up whatever it is that they gave up, how we do stuff over here, processes, whatever, because stuff that they had in that file they shouldn't have had. That's not online info, right? Now, in this unpublished United States Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit Court, number 065197, United States of America, plaintiff Nanya Shabbu L, aka Sean Wesley Henry, defendant, right? We have outline of what's going on. So let's just see what's going on, how he even got to Canada in the first place if he's from Atlanta or whatever, right? So a jury convicted Nanya Shabbu L on 2 charges under Title 18 United States Code Section 915 for falsely claiming diplomatic immunity and attempting to obtain something of value by doing so. He appeals the district court's denial of his Rule 29 motion for judgment, right? Remember, Moors don't do motions, Moors do affidavits, right? So how is he talking about he's qualified and he's the whatever when he's filing motions? And then when it gets denied, talking about they're practicing color of law. When he's practicing color of law by being a Moor and you're filing a motion, this is how much fraud these guys are running. That people aren't opening their eyes to recognize immediately who the frauds are. Because if once you study Noble Duali, it becomes so obvious who these frauds are. Because all the frauds have the same speech. All the frauds have the same mode of operation. 1, they don't mention Noble Duali, and 2, they don't talk about nationality and birthrights. They talk about some filing or something you gotta do, right? He appeals the district court's denial of his Rule 29 motion for judgment of acquittal made at the close of the government's evidence and renewed at the close of his defense case. On May 22, 2006, Nanya and 2 others falsely represented to authorities that they were diplomats. Nanya L. first made this representation at the main office of the United States Department of State in Washington, D.C. Nanya told the security guard on duty he was a diplomat, showed the guard what purported to be a United Nations identification card. Hold on a second. So you're a Moor. You're Aboriginal and indigenous to the land. But you're a diplomat sanctioned by the United Nations? You mean you don't have a nationality card? How come you don't have a nationality card? And why are you going to some UN to get them to validate your identity if you're saying that you're a Moor? Right? Again, this is the type of fraud that these guys do, right? Claiming that they have some authority of something when that's no different than this Anthony Silver guy have a license. But he's saying he's a Moor, but he's making claims against somebody, but he's going to the notary and signing, and without reserving his rights on that contract that he used a license. And these are the guys that people are following, right? And we're putting these guys on the wall so you guys could see them bloody and recognize that it's not about being in that situation. It's not about being classified as dirty Moor around Kudjo, because he stones dirty Moors to death, right? And we'll go and we'll hunt. We'll go and we'll hunt down their dirt, and we'll find their dirt, and we'll put it out there. Because their purpose is to get people's attention away from what Noble Duali presented to them, right? Don't listen to what Kudjo's saying. Go study what Noble Duali brought you. Because what Noble Duali brought you could save a nation. And you're supposed to take it and save yourself, not listening to these asses, right? Using United Nations identification card, talking about you're a diplomat. How are you a diplomat when United Nations... Where's diplomat at? Let's just check this out here for a second. Let's just check this out. So if they're saying that they're diplomats, right? Let's just see what what diplomat is. Just so we're clear as to what are they really saying when they say, I'm a diplomat. Right? Because that's a strong word. You know what I mean? Diplomat. You got clout like that. If you got a diplomat, how come you're getting kidnapped and stuff like that? You're a diplomat. Right? Diplomats don't get kidnapped. Now, what's interesting is that we're in Black's Law, you know, diploma, diplomacy, diplomatic agent, diplomatics, dipping, dipsomania, dipsomaniac, dipta, direct, that, okay, so there's no such thing called diplomat in Black's Law Dictionary, right? First thing, right? Diplomatic agent is the closest thing. In international law, a general name for all classes of persons charged with the negotiation, transaction, or superintendence of the diplomatic business of one nation at the court of another. Okay, so if they're saying that they're diplomats, right, that means that they're a class of person charged with negotiation, transaction, or superintendence of the diplomatic business of one nation at the court of another. Now, if you have an identification card from the United Nations, not a specific nation, then who are you a diplomatic agent of? Because the United Nations isn't a nation. That's a corporation, right? And then somebody put on the chat, Diplomat Relations Act. Oh, and then when you think about Diplomat Relations Act, then it got you thinking, well, okay, if they're saying that they're diplomats and there's an act called Diplomat Relations Act, but the term diplomat's not in the law dictionary, then the only other place that they can get their concept of diplomat is from that act, which is fraud in the first place anyways. So they're still committing fraud by even considering themselves diplomat, right? Showed the guard what purported to be United and informed the guard that he wishes to authenticate documents. Later that same day, the car in which Nanya L was riding as a passenger was pulled over on Interstate 85. The officers found a small amount of marijuana and a loaded handgun in the car. Nanya L again represented himself to be a diplomat during conversations with the police officers conducting the traffic stop and referred to authenticated documents in a folder he was carrying as support for his claim. Nanya Shabbu L refers to himself as Mr. Nanya L in his brief, and we will likewise refer to him as Nanya L throughout the remainder of this opinion. Nanya L was not ultimately charged with any state criminal offenses. The driver of the car was charged in state court with simple possession of marijuana. Nanya was indicted on 2 charges under Title 18, Section 915, for falsely claiming diplomatic immunity and attempting to obtain something of value by doing so. The jury convicted him on both counts, and Nanya L was sentenced to concurrent terms of 6 months on both counts, with credit for time already served. On appeal, Nanya L argues that he had no intent to defraud authorities. Wait a second. I thought you were a diplomat. How are you a diplomat, but then you're telling in here that they're the authority? And then if they're the authority, that means you're subordinate. And if the so-called authority is either the UN or the U.S., then that means you're an agent for a private corporation of European colonizing inquisitionists, and his purpose is to derail and destabilize his people from finding knowledge of self. These are the guys, right? And remember, like we're saying, it's a pattern. It is a pattern. It's the same pattern. Like I'm saying, the guy brought up stuff from 2 years ago to use in 2014 as evidence of a claim of some fraud, when the real fraud is that he's an agent and he shouldn't even be talking about anything, because all this stuff right here is online about you and you're flapping your mouth or whatever, when there's all this stuff out here, right? Pages and pages of these frauds, right? Nanya further argues, authorities, either because he had a good faith belief that his representations were true or that the story given to the police was so far-fetched that the police could not have reasonably believed he was from a nation having diplomatic relations with the United States. Nanya L. further argues that since he purported to be from a quote-unquote nation which did not have diplomatic relations with the United States, he cannot be guilty under the statute. Nanya L's final argument is that since he was not charged with any offense in state court, there is no evidence that he sought anything of value by asserting diplomatic immunity. We review the trial's court denial of the motion for a judgment of acquittal de novo. Make sure you go check that, acquittal de novo. Right? The jury's verdict must be upheld if, after reviewing the evidence in the light of the most favorable to the government, a rational trier of fact could have found the elements of the offense beyond reasonable doubt. In order to prove its case under this statute, the government must demonstrate that the defendant intended to falsely represent himself as a diplomat and that he intended to gain a thing of value by doing so. Attempting to secure immunity from possible prosecution is a thing of value within the meaning of this statute. See United States versus Callaway. The district court did not err in denying Nanya L's Rule 29 motion for acquittal. Nanya L's somewhat contradictory arguments notwithstanding, in reviewing the evidence in the light most favorable to the verdict, we find that the government adequately proved the intent to defraud element. Now, when I was reading that, something came to mind because it sounded really familiar, like I heard that before somewhere. Where did I hear that before? And then I went online, and then it came back to me, right? Because remember, we're playing the game of piecing together. You know, we gotta put this puzzle together, right? And what came to me was the 2004 dismissal of the slave reparations. So go read all the articles on that, and then you'll see how relative these frauds are, right? Who claim to be Moorish national, Moorish whatever, but they're signing stuff without all rights reserved, you know, just like Ali Muhammad when we kicked his ass, and you saw that he was a Bey, but he's not coming out saying that he's a Bey, right? And then you have this guy Silver, right, coming out and saying that he's a Bey, but then signing with a driver's license, using the driver's license as ID, right? You begin to recognize and realize immediately who the frauds are once you study, because they have a protocol, they have a guideline that they follow, because they're not working from their own mind. They are puppets. They are agents. Dirty Moors are Moors that are bought. Dirty Moors are Moors that get a check. When you hear that there's Moors that run a temple or something like that, but they don't got no job for themselves, and they don't have no job, period, but they got, you know, big ass temple or whatever, and they got all this stuff that, you know, it looks good from the outside, right? And it would draw your attention because of, you know, some stuff that it looks like they got. Be mindful of those people there, right? Because Moors, don't get it twisted, Moors work. They either work for themselves or they work for somebody. But Moors have some type of something that they do. They don't do nothing. There's a Moor that does nothing, but he has a temple and he's a Grand Sheik, and then they're calling themselves Prime Minister, Grand Sheik, and all this type of stuff. Be mindful of those people there. Because those people are living off their people. And any other idiot that wants to pay, right? That's where they're at. Okay, that's not assumption. I'm telling you, that's where they're at. What you want to do with that info, you can do. That's up to you. But remember, just so you can have some ammo when they come at you, because you know they're gonna come at you. As soon as you say that you're active, as soon as you start saying RV Bay Publications, Taj Tariq Bay, Kudjo Adwo, Alim Bay, Asir, who else? um, Nature El Bay. You know, you start calling certain names and you start seeing people, you know, starting to put the bullets in the, you already know where they're going. You already know what their position is, right? So remember, you're going to go research unpublished United States Court of Appeals, United States of America versus Nanya Shabbu L, aka Sean Wesley Henry. And then you could read that just to understand the whole fraud that those guys are running, right? And then second to that, we just wanted to put on the record as well, once again, you know, right, paperwork to prove to you that this is not just some stuff that we're, you know, whatever, right? Okay, this is actual documentation that's out there. Okay, and we go to page 43. Moorish law. Edmonton is home to Sean Henry, typically styled Chief Nanya Shabbu El of the Atasika Nation, you know, Oxycontin Nation, of Yamasee Moors, or less commonly, Sean Henry Bey. Oh, interesting. One of Canada's very few Moorish law litigants. He has frequently appeared in this court. Right, remember, and this is the court of the Queen's Bench of Alberta, de facto court. Right? The exotic nature of the Moorish law movement and its claims warrant some comment, as casual exposure to a Moorish law litigant may lead an observer to suspect mental impairment or disorder. The Moorish law community is a predominantly American offshoot of urban American black Muslim churches such as the Nation of Islam. They claim that black Muslims who identify as Moors are not subject to the state nor court authority because they are governed by separate law or as the original inhabitants of North and South America. In the case of Henry, he claims that the Oxycontin Nation owns North America, now renamed Atlan Amexem Turtle Island Land of the Frogs. As a result of his treaty with the Olmec people, an early culture that existed in Mesoamerica from 1500 to 400 BC, and who are noted for their large sculptures of human heads. Justice Sanderman of our court, who had reviewed the documentary foundation of Henry's many claims, observed, it would be an affront to the dignity of this court, and an affront to the dignity of any court, to allow a document such as this to stand, to force individuals to come to court to have to answer this, as I say, just absolute gibberish. Henry claims his ownership of Canada renders him immune to court and state action. You got kidnapped though, right? But also applies, oh yeah, and the Queen's on our money still, on the money still out here. You know, but he has a lien on her. Henry apparently spent some time in the United States and attempted to apply those concepts. United States of America versus Nanya Shabbu El, aka Sean Wesley Henry, 25th of April 2008, 065197, U.S. 4th Circuit Court of Appeals, confirmed conviction of Henry for false claims of diplomatic status and rejected Henry's argument that because he had claimed to be a diplomat for a non-existent state, Atlan, he could not have committed that offense. Though it may seem unlikely to many readers, Henry is not alone in his peculiar beliefs. Reports on other Moorish law litigants who claimed to be named in this action. Oh, now hear this part. El Afif Hassan Hatat Bey. In action, the litigant resisted a deportation order of the Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada. The attached 7 pages consisted of a color photocopy of what purports to be the Moorish American nationality card of a certain El Afif Hassan Hatat Bey. At page 1, pages 2 through 7 purport to be judicial notice and proclamation signed by El Afif Hassan Hatat Bey on January 2010, in which he makes certain claims to title, rights, and privileges on the basis of his being a noble of the Al-Moroccan Empire, written in legalese and citing various statutes of the United States, international treaties and covenants, and extensive U.S. case law The document purports to deny the jurisdiction of the governments of the Americas over the members of the Al Moroccan Empire, in particular El Hafif Hassan Hetep Bey, and to establish him and other members as sovereign entities. The decision 14.8 reviews other documents received, including a writ of right constituting notice of default judgment. Rejection of Immigration Appeal Division was not authorized by American law, and a claim of right appellation name correction pursuant to indigenous nationality and Aboriginal citizenship, whereby he renounced his quote-unquote slave name in favor of the name El Afif Hassan Hetep Bey, right? And just so you know, for the record, Moore is still here. Why? Because he showed allegiance to his nation. He didn't show allegiance to some club, some non-existent state. Right? Why? Because we honor and uphold the principles and the teachings of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And once we do that, right? Once we do that, then we show that we're not new to this. We show that we've at least been doing this for 100 years when you recognize the Prophet, right? Two more things to put on there, just so we're, if you remember in the Ali Muhammad, when we beat him up, right? We told you about his connection to this UNPFII group, same group that this guy belongs to, right? That he has an actual card from May 2005 when he was invited to the UNPFII meeting as indigenous Moor, but then his name is all capital letters on this, right? Trying to pretend like they have some authority. And then last but not least, all these clowns out here, dirty Moors again, right? Now remember, dirty Moors, they jump different jurisdictions, right? So I want to say Islam to our good brother El Mario Day, because the Moors constantly trying to put the word out to these so-called people, Mexicans, Latinos, or whatever that they want to call themselves, that they're Moors, that they're going at him now and going at Moors who are showing allegiance to the Moorish Empire and pushing that as who they are, not that they're Mexican, right? So this is how they're going at him now, right? El Mario Day helps promote the black supremacist claim that the Moors are black and that they are the real natives of this continent. We don't talk about no Moors are black and all that stuff, right? Self-hating Mexicans and other natives will say and do anything to get approval of black people, right? Moors aren't black people. Even if they have to speak negatively about or participate in the dehumanization, oppression, and betrayal of their own people. Their own people are not Mexican. Their own people are Moors. And by a Mexican or by somebody who's considered Mexican realizing that they're Moors and starting to call themselves Moors is no different than a so-called black person realizing that they're Moors and starting to call themselves Moors. And then once we start calling ourselves Moors, then we have unity because we'll be calling each other the same thing. So Islam to all the brothers and sisters out there who speak the language, Spanish, right? That know that they're the natives, know that their land goes all up into Texas and all that, and not just some little jurisdiction at the end of North America. Let them know that they're part of the Moroccan Empire and that we will stand by y'all and with y'all and rep y'all so that Immortal Technique, all those people there, right, who know about Moors, talk about Moors, identify themselves as Moors, hang with Moors, chill with Moors, right, and unearth some of that history about Moors in the Americas that they don't want people to know about. Because if people know about, we've been here and we're brothers and sisters with the Peruvians and the Brazilians and the Guyanese and the Mexicans and all these people who've been mislabeled as something that they're not, all of us are Moors. And we're about to claim back this vast estate. So get on board or get against the wall, because we have something for you. So Islam to all the Moors worldwide. We see y'all. We recognize what's going on. Islam to the active Moors that are continuing to do the work to make sure people know about the truth about their nationality and birthrights. Islam to all the Moors that are passive, because I know eventually you're going to be active if you made it this far. And all the dirty Moors, you got mad walls around here. So keep up your stuff, and we're going to keep up getting at y'all, right? Just remember, anybody comes asking you questions about stuff that you should have in your temple that you're not given, the Kudjo sent them, right? Just so you know. Islam to all the Moors, love y'all. Stay strong, and we'll just close out with the prayer. 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, Islam. Peace and love, Moors. You know what we do. We got this. Study, 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 and tell somebody who doesn't know. Islam.
I'm a Moor. Red fez, black tats, elders of my class, not black or Indians. I repeat, I'm a Moor. Indigenous to the farthest west, say we were great, still they say we the best. Hear what I say, I'm a Moor. Yes, it's true, if not for Drew Ali, most of y'all would have still been asleep. Now you could tell I'm a Moor than you could ever wish you thought you would be. 3 centuries deep in Moorish science I read, study, I'm a Moor. So y'all didn't tell us about it. Y'all want me to tell my children that they be like Moor. I'ma have them playing a race and ethnicity game while we losing out here. I'm a Moor. So what, I'm not supposed to tell them that they have a nationality? Let them suffer like we did? I'm a Moor. We ain't playing that black game no more. Moorish Americans, stand up.